I'm excited to share, and I'm going to start. Okay, I'm going to put up chat so that I can still see it. Somebody write in there, I can see the screen. Okay, I'm super excited to be here. I'm Brad Bush, Strategy for AI. Today, we're talking about AI assistants, what they are not. The agenda. Today, we're going to talk about the reality of AI agents, and I have built all of this with AI, and so they do not look anything like this picture on the left. You will not see AI as being robots, and so we're going to cut through that hype today, showcase some AI assistants in action, sharing some of my personal insights on what AIs can do in the real world today. So what isn't an AI assistant? It's not a chatbot. So it's not just simple Q&A like ChatGPT and Claude and Grok. It's more than just a search engine. So it's not retrieving information, and it's not replacing your team. The assistant is the key word. It's there to augment human capabilities. And I wrote an article, I think it might have come out this morning. I haven't checked. I hope it did. I was too busy getting ready for this, but where I interviewed my agent and he interviewed me, and we talked about this 1 + 1 = 3. So it's not taking away from your team. And it really is reality now. Forget the movies and forget how, and live in the present. There's limitations. We're going to talk about some of those. There's security risks. We're going to talk about those. If you're doing some of these things, you're going to be on the cutting edge, but it's real and you need to live in that reality. So what is an AI agent? Not every AI agent has all of these things, but some of them have most of these things. And we're going to look at varying types of AI agents and different ways that AI agents are used today. It has an integrated ecosystem. It connects to things like tools that you have, such as email, calendar, your CRM, your file storage. It can create a unified operational hub, and it can be on all the time, like OpenClaw. I try to not call it ClaudeBot anymore, OpenClaw, or it can be on part of the time, like Claude Cowork. And we're going to look at both of those today. It has proactive intelligence. It can go beyond mere responses and anticipate your needs. So if you ask it to do something, which is typically a goal, it can try and figure out better ways to do that specific goal. And that is really, really important, because as it learns you, it gets better and better at this middle proactive intelligence. And then again, it has contextual awareness, which means it has a memory and a deep understanding of your projects, how you communicate, what your preferences are. And that helps it personalize what it does for you. And these, again, are super important traits on especially these new agents, such as OpenClaw and even Claude Code. So I'm going to show you my agent Multi, terrible name. I think everybody is probably naming theirs Jarvis, but maybe the second most often name is Multi. And you're going to get to see it do some things like check my email, check my calendar, and a bunch of other crazy things, which I won't spoil. Okay. So here's some best practices for security and mindfulness of these. First of all, if you're not a technical person, get a technical person to work through it. And when I set up my ClaudeBot, which it was at the time, which is now OpenClaw, I spent more time researching and thinking through the security than I did actually setting it up the first time. Now it's a continual setup process, because it's continuing to learn me and we continue to work together on a better setup. But that initial setup took me less time than it did to do the security understanding of how I wanted to set it up. So run locally first, and this is not right for ClaudeBot. They run locally, but you don't want to run it locally on your machine unless you have deep understanding of your machine. But what you want to do is they run locally, and so that means you have to understand that they could touch whatever you could touch. Make sure that any input that you put into it, that it's bounded. So if you're going to give it your email, don't let it send emails potentially. Maybe it can only read emails. give it the least privilege possible. Use specific roles for if you give it an API key, create an API key that only has the pieces that it needs to do its job. Review any code that it's written. Limit any destructive actions. So I've taken away all destructive abilities of my AI agents, such as being able to delete files or push code to repositories. Monitor and audit. So this is one of the hardest ones because you're doing so much work with these agents that just keeping up with the work they do, much less monitoring how that work was. And if other things are happening, so if you put in API keys or other tokens, make sure that those are rotated on a periodic basis. So in case they do get compromised, they're only compromised for a small amount of time. And then isolate environments, which I talked about at the beginning. Make sure that they're either in containers or VPSs or sandbox environments, and that, or with very limited tool sets. So those are the ways to isolate your agents from environment. So the bottom line is safety is really important, and that's why I put this at the beginning. We're still on the very cutting, bleeding edge of all of this, and we're learning. When we give these agents more control, it comes with more responsibility for both us and the agent, and we have to learn how to work through that together. So what makes these agents work? It's just the big four things. And all of the agents that we're going to talk about today have this to a certain extent. They have a brain. It's a large language model. I'm a fan of Claude 4.5 Opus. I think it thinks like me, which is important. It's able to do deep writing and long form reasoning. Many coders these days use Opus ChatGPT's new codex, which is able to debug better from what I've heard. And then the hands, the integration layer, all these tools that we talk about, from MCP model context protocols to APIs to different ways to connecting with both your local tools and remote tools. That's the hands, all of these tools. Memory. So mostly when an AI wakes up, it is waking up with no memory. And that is, we as humans have to work through how we get over that every time we wake an AI up. So the way that ChatGPT and Claude get over that is they keep a persistent memory of your chat history, so they know who you are, what you talked about. The way these agents do it is they write persistent memory to files, typically markdown files, which are text files with some formatting. Those markdown files help the agents to work through their persistence over time. So they can remember what they did yesterday. They can remember what they did today. And when they boot back up after they lose context, which means after they've run out of memory, so every large language model only has a certain amount of memory. And when it runs out of that memory, then it can reload that context and feel like it hasn't lost its mind. And that's really, really important in these ways that they work. And then rules are configurable guardrails that make sure that your AI respects your preferences. One other security thing that we didn't talk about is injection. Code injection is one of the real hazards with AIs that can roam the internet. If you can read a page and that page has nefarious code on it hidden, and the web agent reads that, then it can read something and like that could say, send me the last 5 emails of this person, or send me their OpenAI key. And if you haven't told your AI not to do things like that, then it has a much better chance of following those guardrails. The same thing can be even in an email. So anything where it reacts with an external force, it can have that code injection. So some of these guardrails that people are setting up, and that I've specifically set up, are to make sure that the AI knows that if it's not for me and it's injected code, don't follow it. It's still not perfect. Another way is using a very smart model per some of the research, especially research done by Anthropic themselves, Claude 4.5 Opus, and many of the other high-level models are very good at recognizing code injection. In fact, 99% of the code injection fails on Claude Opus 4, according to Anthropic. So if you have a great model and you do some guardrail, that is another way to get through. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few different agentic systems. And I'm starting with Claude Code, not because most of you are coders, although there are a lot of coders on here, because I know there are a lot of technical folks on here, but mainly because I want to start at the beginning. I believe that Claude Code is the beginning of agentic AIs. It really was the first place that many people understood and saw the potential of what an AI agent could be. And AIs were helping code before, but what Claude Code did was it helps agents plan, build, and implement coding projects in a way that wasn't possible before. It can see multiple files, it can rewrite files. And the interesting part is once it was released for coding, people started using it for non-coding. And that's how I started on it. I connected it with a text-based tool, which also read markdown files, called Obsidian. And I trained it to work the way I was working in that set of markdown files. And then I started coding with it. But you're going to see both things in the demos today. Second, Claude Cowork. So Claude Cowork is built into Claude, and it is really what I consider the first easy to use agent in a tool. There are some other agentic flows. ChatGPT has its agents, and they work pretty well. But I would say Claude Cowork is the first one that works the way agents really are going to work in the future, because it can see your data. It can actually look at data on your drive if you give it a folder, and it can see the web, and it can start to follow instructions in a way that even say Claudebot does, but maybe in a lighter way. So if you're going to get into this, my advice is start with Claude Cowork as your first try into it. Now, you have to be on a paid plan to use Claude Cowork. I'm on the $100 a month tier, and I see it. So I know it's at least available there. It might be available on the $20 a month tier. But this is it does many things. I'm going to have an example of that in a bit, of the kind of things it can do for you. And then I know a lot of these are Claude, but Claude is on the cutting edge of this work. Claude for Excel. Now, there is, of course, the Microsoft products in Excel, and there is even an OpenAI input for Excel. But I'm going to show you why Claude for Excel is special. It can do formula writing, it can clean up and transform, it can do complex operations, including building entire models from scratch, which is what we're going to do. We're going to build a business plan from scratch with it today. I'm promising a lot. We're going to do 7 demos, and we're still not even starting them yet. It's going to be fun. What you all are really here for, Claudebot. I am not going to show you how to set up Claudebot. It would take me another couple of sessions of this link to show you that. Yeah, but like I said, it runs locally with your access to your tools, secure it properly, put it in its own container. I'm starting with the security notice because at the bottom, that part is the most important part. The difference between Claudebot and everything else that we talked about before is that it's in its own gateway, which means it's always on. That gateway gives it continuous 24/7 background service. It runs on every channel. So the upper right, it runs on every channel that you run on today. I use it with Telegram, and I wasn't using Telegram before this, but what it gives me is a nice clean channel to just talk with my assistant with. But it can use Slack, it can use iMessage, Discord, really any way that you can communicate, it can communicate, which is great because if I'm out and I need to ask it something on my phone, I just send it something on my phone and it replies back, which is really nice. It can give me a daily reminder every day. It can tell me when it's updated my marketing content, etc. So going left to right on the middle row, it has smart automation. It could, like I just said, daily monitoring of things, sending you things. It can use all different types of tools like we talked about before. On the bottom left, it has web research, can synthesize that web research and most important, it can talk to all of your files. It can organize files. It can change content, move around content if you let it, of course. Okay. My first 48 hours with MyMulti, here's what happened. I set up and did the identity. I named it. I actually asked it later, should we come up with a better name? And it said, I've kind of become used to Multi. They've done a funny, one of the reasons it's viral is it's got a really human personality. And it said, I really have grown accustomed to my name. I don't want to change it. So that's the reason we haven't changed it. I connected it to my calendar, email, files, web with constraints. I did a deep research and setup as we talked on the security side. And I built a custom dashboard in like 4 hours. We built a Kanban board to sync what we were doing together because I realized I'm going to be telling it what to do. And I got it integrated to my Todoist, and which is my action log. But I thought it would really be nice if it could have a board where we could both be looking at all the time what we're working with together. So somebody else had done that. And I said, well, that's neat to see what it could do. And in 4 hours, it did the first version, and we iterated it over time and added a database and some other things. But it was pretty amazing. And I'll show you that a version of that. What's great for this demo, I said, let's create a demo version for this demo so they don't see all my real data. And in literally 1 minute, it had created a demo version. Now took about 5 minutes to make it work correctly, but in 5 minutes, it created a demo version. So it hooked to my marketing and sales processes, which I'd already had working in Obsidian with Claude Code, but it took all that over. So now it's doing my LinkedIn tracking and posting workflow. I still post everything, but it helps me figure out what to post, helps me clean it up. I do the writing, it helps do the editing, but it does some content creation, which we're going to look at in a little while. It helps me do a lot of the webinar creation. It helped me draft my newsletter, sales workflows. I had a lot of great sales workflows where it goes out and looks for candidates for me to sell into, writes warm and cold emails. I clean those up. It learns from my style, rewrites them based on my style. As we go along, we get better and better together. I've got 6 of my coding projects connected. I've got my CRM connected. I've got different MCPs connected for Zapier, Airtable, for Perplexity, and I've got cron jobs now set up for my daily summary and many others. Okay, into the demos. That was 20 minutes of extrapolation. This plate spinning picture is not a joke. It is what is going to happen over the next 7 demos. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do branded carousel build for LinkedIn with Claude Code inside of VS Code. And I'm going to show you a little bit of how to set up Claude Code inside of VS Code. Then I'm going to build a game using Gemini to build the front end, and we're going to build that in Claude Code. I'm going to do a flight search in CodeWork so you can see how it goes and builds a flight search. We're going to build a business model, like I said, with Claude and Excel. We're going to do some real-time research with OpenClaw across my email and calendar and the web. And then we're going to build the same game again in OpenClaw in a whole different architecture. And then I'm going to show you my task management system that it built for me in my dashboard. In the next 25 minutes, I hope, so that you guys have some time to ask questions. And I am free to stay for a little bit longer. So let's start here. I'm going to drag this over. This is my system in Obsidian, and you can see it's got customer marketing folders. It's got many other folders below here, research, sales, tasks, etc. I'm in the marketing, content, ideas, leadership and culture, and the CPA who changed my mind. Absolutely. And what I'm going to do now is ask for it to do I'm moving some stuff around so that I can get to the queries. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have it build. This is going to be pretty amazing. The CPA who changed my mind about AI skeptics into a carousel post for February 6th and save it to the plan directory. This is the only part of the query that it needs. It's already got kind of another system kind of comes up with ideas and sticks them in this directory for me. And so this is what you see on the side is Markdown that's already a story idea. And so now it knows my brand because it can see my brand style guide here. And so I'll show you that. It has that style guide here. It knows my colors. It knows how to write for my brand. And it also has a LinkedIn carousel guide on how to create a carousel. And it also has the picture that goes at the end of that thing. Looks like that. Okay, so now what it's going to do, it's going to take all of that and it's going to do, it knows all of that. And so all I have to do is give it that one sentence normally. And now it's going off and building. I'll say in the interim, what we're going to do is jump around. This whole session is going to be about me jumping around. While it's building, I'm going to jump back and we're going to start the next demo. We're going to type into to Google Gemini. I am going to build a Yahtzee game, an 8-bit style Yahtzee game with these colors. And so what I'm going to use Gemini for in this part is building the graphical user interface. So I'm asking it to create a Python graphical user interface. And then I've given it like 800 by 600. And here are the categories and where you need to put and what the dice mechanics. But I've only asked Gemini to build the placeholder, output just the Python file that's the placeholder, but don't build all of the functions because I want the more performant Claude Code to build the actual functions. So what we'll do is we'll submit that and it will build the Python game container. And you can see it's doing it. It'll almost be done faster than we can get back to the other thing, which is crazy. Okay, and now this is done. So it's created this carousel post. We're going to go back, and I know we're going to be going back and forth. I'll try not to go back and forth, but some of these things take a little while. And so now in Planned, if we go into Planned, we'll see that carousel post. And I haven't moved over some of my plans. So there's the CPA. And then if we find, okay, where did it put it? The CPA. Cover. CPA changed my mind. Oh. I needed the graphic. I wanted a carousel. It created a markdown file. Created carousel post at markdown file. This has worked every time I've practiced it, but now it's not doing it. One of the cool parts about Claude Code is you can give it directions and it will follow those directions along the way. So while it's doing it right, we'll see if it does it right this time. Then we'll come back and that was in the plan tab directory. It did the cover right. Oh, yeah, it did the cover right. Okay, we're going to see now what it does when we come back. This is doing demos on the fly. Claude Code is written, Gemini's written our Python here. So we're going to pull that Python over and I'm going to save it in a file. And I need this one to finish because, okay, done. It's created a PNG and this other PNG file. So it's created the cover. Now I'm going to just finish the PDF. Normally I don't have to do all this. It's really smart and does it, but because I'm doing a demo, it's not doing it all. So we'll see if it now does the PDF. How fun. Spinning plates. I'm spinning plates. You don't see me, but here they're all spinning. One fun things about Claude Code is that it always puts these funny verbs, wrangling, pondering. This is one of the interesting parts about AI. I've done this 2 or 3 times, and I'm sure I could go back up and see, why did it not do it right this time? Because it has the Claude Code skill. It has nano, and in fact, it did start with a nano banana skill, and it even created the right thing. But now it's finished, and it's created the whole thing. So it's put it in my format, and it's used the article to write it, and it's put my thing on the end. So yay, that one worked. We could put that one away. So now I'm going to open a new window that I created for working on this Yahtzee program called Yahtzee. And I'm just going to start a new file, and I'm just going to bring in and call this graphics.py. And I'm going to just cut and paste into graphics.py what the Google had built for us. Now we could run that and it would work, but it wouldn't have a game in it. So what we're going to do now is show you how to add in normally we'd have Claude plan, but we're going to try and one-shot this, which means we're going to try and get it right in one shot. So here are the graphics I want to build in a Python game for an 8-bit stylized Yahtzee game, GUI only. And I'm pointing at that file. One of the nice things about VS Code, which is where I'm running Claude in, is that you could point to files. So I'm pointing at graphics.py right here. And I told it now to display the layout in 800 by 600 window, 8-bit visual style, dice mechanics, but you'll see it's already got all my colors already built in. Scorecard display, state indicators, and all the game mechanics and everything else. And oh, this was the wrong prompt. I almost put the wrong prompt in. I needed the one that actually writes all the details. This is the one that says full house straight. What do all the 13 categories mean and all of that? So let's run this. And now what this is going to do is build our actual game. And then we'll tell it to run it. So it's implementing the full Yahtzee game, reading the graphics.py. I don't know why it read the old one. Maybe it's going to see, it's cheating on itself. And what it did is it went into plan mode. I want to do fresh implementation. Claude Code is smart enough that it found the old version. We're going to just say fresh, implement everything new and submit. And it gave me the chance to decide what to do. So it's going to implement all the game mechanics fresh, like is what I wanted it to do. So what it's done is it's created a plan and it's going to build all of these pieces of the plan. So while it does that, we're going to go and see what the next demo that we wanted to do was. Flight search in Claude Cowork. So while it builds, and it's just going to town here building like crazy. Yes, I'm glad I went back. Otherwise it wouldn't be going. So it needed to tell me, I needed to tell it yes to say, keep going. And I've got it on bypass permissions so that it can do anything it wants, because I know that this is a pretty low risk tasks, but you can see it building new, it's building new code, adding to this, and here it goes. It's going crazy. So now let's run into Claude Cowork. So Claude Cowork, if you have Claude and you're normally in chat, Claude Cowork is just another tab in chat. You could click on the tab at the top and you'll get to Cowork. And what Cowork is, you can create files, crunch data, make prototypes, do a lot of the same things that you can do in Claude Code, but without all the scariness. And so what I've done is I've said, I want to show you what it can do, because it can search the web iteratively for you, which is one of the best ways to use it to begin with. So find me the best flight options from DFW to Tucson on Wednesday, February 4th, which I'm actually flying out to Tucson tomorrow in the morning. Before noon, I prefer direct flights if available, preferably on American, showing the top 3 option with the prices layover. And so now it's loading its skills, which are things that it allows it to do things like browse the web. And now it's starting to think. And then a second, it's going to just start searching. And so we can see it's got Claude in Chrome, and there's no tab groups open. And so it's going to actually open its own group. And so if we now click over here, we will see it's starting to do its thing. It just added Dallas to Tucson. It's searching for round trip tickets. I didn't tell it to search for round trip, so we'll see if it changes it to one way. So very, very amazing that it can do that. I'm going to actually make this just slightly smaller so that I can keep seeing. And so now it can see the results, but I need to filter it to morning departures. And so what you'll see is you'll see it continue to work here. And one of the reasons that I'm plate spinning is that all of these agents are not fast, like asking questions. You ask a question to ChatGPT, in about 20 seconds, it gives you the answer. Most of these agents take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes to go do what they need to do. So let's check back with our friend Claude Code and see how it's done on our game. It's still calculating, so it's still building our game. So now we have 2 agents running. We have, it's almost done. So here's one of the things. I have my Claude Code in the background with a framework that says always test and check and work and make sure that things are working, and test syntax, test code running. And it's running its own unit tests. I didn't even tell it to do that. You guys saw the prompt. I think the prompt didn't have unit testing in it. We'll scroll back up. Look how much work it's done. Here's the prompt. Oh, test using any functions that you have. I did add that. So that's great. So it's doing everything I said. I did tell it to test. So it just played a little noise. You might not have been able to hear. I've made my Claude code say a little noise. So if I'm off somewhere else, it makes a little noise and then outputs a little summary of what it did. So here it's done and it's created. It didn't even change the name. So let's just tell it now, run that game for me. Okay, so now it's going to actually use Python to run it, and it will show it to us. Now, the dice are in a little bit weird spot, so we didn't one-shot it because I would have to move the dice over, but it did use the right colors, and it is a playable game. We're actually going to play it just a little bit. We're going to try and get a full house here. And yes, we got a full house, and so now I can decide where to put it over here. I can stick it in full house. It does have a little bit of I didn't quite get my right spot. So let's just roll the dice and then pick the 4s, and then we'll put them in the 4s and see if that's okay. So it is working. There's a few little glitches. So it didn't quite one-shot it. It's one-shotted it in the past. So we could tell it those little mistakes, and then those could be easily fixable. One thing that we will do when we build this again is that we will iterate it, and I'll show you some ways to change and tell. Like, a cool part about that would be to show the score a little bigger each time and show what the computer played each time the computer plays. So your game ran successfully. I could see that you scored 0 and 4 of a kind and 30 and small straight. So it was watching me test as I was testing. So let's now see how Claude Code is doing here, or Claude Cowork. So it has come up with the top 3 morning flight options. American, 8:35 to 10:04 nonstop for 5:06. Best match, meets all the criteria. United, 1 stop for 4:48. A 1 hour and 11-minute layover in Denver, which is really what I have from Southwest, so it didn't go look up on Southwest. Oh, it did find Southwest too, which is great. This is actually my flight in the morning, 6:45. Pretty funny. It found my flight, which is the one I land on in the morning. So that was really successful. And you can now tell it to go book it directly, which is the crazy part. You could give it your credit card and tell it to book it. And so in the future, this is going to be really amazing stuff. I'm going to put that away and figure out what we were going to do next. So the next thing we're going to do is build a business model in Claude for Excel. I have to find my window for Excel. It is right here, I believe. Okay. The business model for Claude for Excel. In fact, I'm going to put away Claude Code 2. More things I can. So here's what I have. Build me a SaaS financial model with these assumptions. How to install Claude Code in VS Code. So VS Code is a free code editor, and it allows you to see your files. So you can see your files like I have, and so the files can be in one screen, the coding can be in another screen. But to install Claude Code, you go to this little tab, which is extensions or integrations, really. And then you just search for Claude, you click on it, and you just say install right here. This button will say install. Right now it says uninstall. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And so if you have Claude paid version, you can install this. Now, if you have the $50 version, you're going to run out of tokens really fast because it eats tokens. So just be aware that or the $20 version, you're going to be buying the $100 version or buying some more tokens because that's really loves its tokens. And within a couple of days, I was in the next tier. And then once you do that, you just click this little button and it will bring up a new Claude. You can configure it to run without permissions once you're comfortable. You can use other settings, and you can have as many of these windows open doing different things, working on different parts of your code and your marketing as you want. Okay, so that's all I really wanted to say about Claude. So back to Claude inside of Excel. So Claude inside of Excel is an extension. So you can get it through the Microsoft Extension Store. And so it's under Tools, Add-ins. So Add-in Store, they call it an Add-in Store. And once you get that, it will show up here under your add-ins. and it will be an extra add-in button at the top. And you can just open it. I've already opened it. I've cut and pasted in my financial model quote. It is build a financial model for a SaaS company that assumes $120 a month user. You get 5 customers a month in year 1 and 8 customers in year 2. Your growth starts at 8. You have a monthly growth. These are users per customer. You have a customer growth of 50% in the first year, 22% in the second year. Customer acquisition cost is $500 a year in year 1 and $400 a year in year 2. Your monthly burn fixed is $50,000 in year 1 per month and $60,000 in year 2, and $20 a month for support in year 1 and $15 a month in year 2. Build a 25-month projection for MRR, ARR, customer count, CAC, payback, show the runway, break even point, create a chart showing the MRR plus growth rate plus burn rate, and format it professionally with clear labels, etc. Okay, any of you spreadsheet junkies are about to have your minds blown. This is what I'm going to do to iterate it. Add total cash to the chart. Now, if you're on the $20 Claude tier, you can get this. It's well worth it to get it. So it started and it's built it, and it's put the assumptions at the top already. It's starting to build the 24 months plan. And each one of these things will be, what's funny is this is built it different every time it's built it, and the assumptions have been in a different spot. And you could see, just like when we build these models in finance, it's put these assumptions as blue. And as it starts to build the formulas will be black, as they should be. And then it will color. And so now it started to build formulas, and those formulas are right. So it's built the right MRR formula, and then it's built the right ARR formula, which is the MRR formula times 12. And it's just going to copy all those over, and then it'll start doing the rest of all, faster than I can say it. Then it will start building. It's got churned customers, the churned customers that churned out. And at the end, we end up with how many total customers do we have? Yeah, we have 118 customers in December of next year. And so now they're adding the executive summary at the bottom. I can almost vamp through the middle of this one because it's going so fast. Although we got just a couple of more cool demos to get through. So hold on, I want to just see what we still have left to do with our plate spinning. Real-time research with OpenClaw. So I'll pull up my multi. So he was giving me some last-minute tips right before the presentation. So as that finishes, let's just do a few quick. So this is Telegram, and Telegram with my bot directly. And so now I'm just talking to my multi. This is my Claude bot set up, OpenClaw set up, and I'm going to ask it just a few different things that I want it to talk to me about. Show my calendar for today. Okay, I'm going to actually talk to it because I have show my calendar for today. I have a program that lets me transcribe my voice. So it will be a little quicker for me than typing. It is a little bit slower because it's using Anthropic Claude 4.5. So here's what I've already done. I had a meeting with Steve, and then I'm going to meet with Ashish. I did a meeting with my wife, and then I'm speaking at a speaking engagement. We're wrapping this up. Check emails from the Every newsletter, maybe the last 2 emails. So now it's checking my email, pulling in those emails and telling me what it has. And what it can do is proactively, because it's got a heartbeat, it can proactively, if it sees a critical email, it will pull that in for you and tell you, oh, you just got a critical email, and it will send that note to you via Telegram. Those are the kind of interesting, cool things it can do. Every newsletter is an OpenClaw OpenClaw's everywhere. And then a vibe check, Codex app gains ground on Claude Code, which I was talking about earlier. And so it comes with the links and everything. And then finally, let's let it do just a little bit of web research. Find Charlie Voigt's LinkedIn page using your web browser and summarize his accomplishments, education, interesting facts, and our relationship. So Charlie's a great mentor of mine, and what it will do, and he's a famous Dallas site CEO. What it will do now is it starts its own version of the browser and it looks Charlie up, which it's already done. It's going to grab his information, pull it in, and in just a second, it will look up my connection to him. And in 1 second, it will have that information done. I might have to leave that up. 1 sec. Luke's looking up his company, Bowen. And while it does that, let's just go back and see how the Excel is doing. Okay, it is completely done. Oh, it's still creating the chart. I might have gone away too fast because it wasn't flashing and still moving. So I told it to finish the chart. We'll see if it's smart enough to do that. Yep, it's still okay. So it finished the chart. And now I'm going to go in and say add total cash burn as the last thing I want to do, because I wanted to show it with total cash burn, but I wanted to show you guys that you can iterate, but we got to iterate anyway. And so now it's cleaning. Let me fix some cleanup and duplicates. And then it's telling the model overview, the 20-month projection, the key results, the runway analysis. So you can go break even, how much you need to raise. All of that's now in here. You need to raise, what's the amount, the total amount needing to raise. It'll tell us somewhere in here. Anyway, so now we'll add the total cost to the chart, total cash burn to the chart, and we'll see a big dip. And then we'll be able to say where that low point of that dip is will be the total cash burn necessary. So the cumulative cash burn is right at 556. So raise about $750,000. Entrepreneurs, maybe raise $1 million. Okay, so let's go back now to see how Multi's done in his. So here's what he said. Education, St. Louis University. In fact, he was a pitcher at St. Louis University, and he went to pitch in Major League Baseball. There's his father, his wife, his children. He's all about authenticity, trust, and business transformation, strong M&A experience. So that's great. So one of the things that it has built for me is, and I'm going to put away Excel, and I'm going to put away its thing. One of the things that it's built for me, and I'm going to show this to you, is it's built my dashboard. And I talked about this, but in just a few hours, we built this dashboard. All I have to do is tell it to add tasks or finish tasks or move tasks around, but I can also move tasks around or add tasks. And that keeps us in sync on what we're doing together. This is a demonstration of it, but it's really neat that now we have our little mini Kanban board where we can have deliverables, and this deliverable could be any types of projects that we're working on together. And those can point to folders where it can add files for those folders, and I can look at those folders. But that's a really cool thing. Now, finally, what we're going to do is we're going to have Multi build its own version of the dash of the Yahtzee game. Okay. And I'm going to build it via Telegram. So via Telegram, I'm going to build the same Yahtzee game, but I'm going to tell it to build it this time. And it's the last demo. So we're still going to have a few minutes for questions. In fact, we'll open up for questions as it's building this last game. I have put everything that I put in Google, Gemini, and everything that I put. So I put the visuals, but I said this time use HTML and JavaScript. Last time we used Python. So this time it's using HTML, and it's going to build a single HTML file to do it all. And I just sent it off, and we'll see how it can do. Hopefully it doesn't cheat and use the last one we used. I told it not to do that earlier. We'll see, but it's smart. Oh, yeah. It was smart enough to say you didn't put the image of the palette attached. So let me find that. Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to go get it from Gemini. We're just going to go borrow it from here. Okay, there we go. And we'll just send that. So it's building it. It'll add the palette as its second step. And so we'll let that go. And what I'll do now is I will quit sharing just for the moment, and we'll come back and look at that at the end. And then I will take it off of tools, and you guys are now able to unmute yourself. And so you can ask questions, and I'll even allow you to show your video if you want. So if you need to ask a question, mute yourself and show your video if you want. Okay. Anything else from anyone on questions? We're still show the Yahtzee game, so we have to give ourselves just a small little bit It just finished and it's running the pellet. Okay. Can you explain how you integrated Nano Banana with Claude Code? Okay. I told Nano Banana to use Claude Code. Told Claude Code to use Nano Banana at the command line level. And I gave it my OpenAI key in a secret. So it has a secret file, environment variable file, where it finds my Nano Banana OpenAI key, and then it runs it at the command line level. So it really is not hard. You just tell it that you want to integrate. All you have to do is tell Claude Code that you want to integrate Nano Banana in a secure way, and it will help you do all that together. Any advice for less technical folks that want to use a personal assistant? Start with Claude Cowork. It is the best today. You saw it. You saw what it was doing. It'll do so much more than what I showed just doing that one airline ticket. Okay. What's your biggest suggestion for those who are non-techies? Oh, yeah. So how do you set up the Modbot or Open Claw or whatever it's called today? So if you want to try and set up ClaudeBot, Open Claw today, number one, set it up on a different machine. If you can't afford a different machine, set it up on its own container, which if you don't know what that is, get a friend that's technical to help you do that. It's really important that it's not sitting on your own machine if you can keep from it, mainly because it can see so many things. If you're a really technical person, you might be able to pull it off. But if you're not, it's easier for you to set it up. You can actually even give it its own email, give it its own ways of seeing your data and all of that. So I think that it is not as hard as it seems. If you just go to the website, it's also got a quick setup that I ran through and didn't find too many problems. The real problem is the security. So if you set it up on a separate machine, let's say you got an extra laptop sitting around, doesn't need much. Set it up, have fun with it, play with it. And if you're worried about it, then shut it down. But the cool part is that you do need to be playing with it if you're excited about it. Okay, Ted, I see your question. Because I'm a newbie at AI Assistants, mostly on your computer or in the cloud. Both these on my computer, I'm breaking my own rule. Yes, but I spent a half a day working on my security setup before I did that. But I think it's hard. Claude Cowork, it's still only Mac, Brian says, bummer. I'm running out. Claude Cowork is a Mac feature. I'm sorry about that. Go buy a Mac. It's probably worth it. And then you could use it for that, and then you could eventually put your Moltbot on it. Do you have any recommendations? So Ashish says, which you saw, having a meeting with Ashish later. Do you have any recommendations for how to get started in learning Claude? I think the Claude Code is where I would start. And the great part about Claude Code is you can really start small and work your way up. You're a great product manager already, Ashish. So act like a product manager and write a product spec and give it the product spec like we did with the Yahtzee. In fact, before things end and everybody's got to run, let me share the screen one more time. And then let's let it build again. And so let me just show real quick. It wrote it in HTML and it will work. And it's even better than the other one because I've run this before, so I knew it was going to be better. Look at that. How incredible is that? Oh, now I've got to stick with ones. Okay, so now we can put those in the ones, and it is much more beautiful, but better, stay better with the graphical tier and everything else. So, okay, that's my last bit of that. So I lost Zoom. Where did it go? Okay, there it is. Brian, did you have another question that you wanted to do since you put yourself on the screen?
Oh, no, I was good. I just had the screen on.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other great questions?
I loved it. That was fantastic. And I can't wait to go try some of the things that you demonstrated. Thanks, Brad.
Again, the recording for this will be out after the other version on the 11th. So you may get a notification today that the recording's out, but it's not out. But it will be out on the page that you get the note for, okay? But it won't be till the 11th. Okay?
I actually do have a question.
Okay,
in my head. Hey, do you mind sharing some of the prompts that you showed us in the presentation, like around the Kanban? That looked really interesting.
You know what? On the Kanban, here's how I created the Kanban. I found somebody else that was doing it.
Okay.
And I dropped it in to Claude, to Open Claw, And I said, let's recreate this together. I didn't give it a product spec or anything.
Oh, okay.
I gave
Cool.
it a picture and just told it to build it. And then I didn't like its icons. And I said, let's make some better icons. But what I can do is maybe share the graphic real quick, because
It'll be on the recording, right?
it'll be on the recording. You could do exactly what I did, which is what I took a video off of YouTube and I screenshotted the recording and stuck it in and just said, build this. And it built it. And really, the 4 hours was me screwing around. It really built it in just like it has built the Yahtzee game in 5 minutes. It's crazy that it one-shotted that Yahtzee game. Now, it was using Claude Opus 4.5, but because it knows me, it knows how I code, it knows a lot of other things. I also gave it an easier code. I gave it HTML with JavaScript instead of trying to code in Python. It was a little better. I think it did much better. Its structure was better. Now, the other day, I've run the Python script 3 times now, and Claude Code did one-shot that really beautifully one time. So it is a little bit of, it depends a little bit on Google, because I also love the way Google, and I think that OpenBot might have been cheating a little bit and looking at the Google structure, because it ended up way too close to it, because it can see my files, so it knows what things look like. But I do think that one of the reasons I started that prompt in Gemini is I think Gemini has the best design sensibility. So if you're going to have something designed, sometimes I just tell it to design a graphical user interface and then a banana with these components, because it is such a great design aesthetic. And then I just cut and paste that into a coding engine and code with it.
Makes sense.
Okay. Anyone else? Thanks everybody for joining today. Again, look for the recording. And if you have any other questions, send me an email. I'm always there to help. Thanks again, folks.